Okay, so what he's showing me is that it's a loop. He's saying you start here, you imagine, then it goes out around, and then it collects everything it needs to, and then it comes back to you. And then you keep imagining, and then it goes out, and now it's retooled a little bit more specifically. And then it comes back. So he's saying you have to keep getting used to this feedback loop, but it has to start with you. So he's talking about that there is a lot of people do a lot of grabbing when they're trying to manifest, that they get these revved up engines, that they don't often get into the practice of manifesting as a daily practice or protocol. He's like saying, such as prayer. We only often manifest, he's laughing, saying it's kind of like people only pray when they want something, or they're in an angsty situation, or there's something that's gone wrong that they really need. And he's saying the same thing with manifesting. People use manifesting tools often when they need something. He's like saying that the law of assumption is really a way of life, and it should not. He's just saying it's the mastery of being human in the highest form, being human in the highest form. So he's saying that it's really very important to take a deep breath, slow down, clear your mind, and go into visioning. And he's like the mind, in a way, the thinking mind really almost has no business there. It's much more about visioning, revisioning, imagination. He's like it's a visceral playground that has imagery and tactile expression. It has sights, sounds, smells. He's like, it's extremely different than writing lists down of things you want, or memorizing something, scripts that you're going to say over and over. He's like, you have to drop into the riches, immerse yourself as fully as you can in that which you desire. And he's also referencing that people really don't know how to play in their minds, that we've become so rigid around how to create, or how to get from A to B or A to Z, that we don't leave a lot of wiggle room for soaking up pleasure and bliss inside of imagination. We've like cut out all of the good stuff and just gone right to that which we want. So he's like, you guys have turned imagining into work. He's like, you've like wrung it dry of all the goodness, of all the riches. So he's saying, go back, try again. He's like saying, loosen your shoelaces, unbutton. He's saying, take off the tie, unbutton the top button, and just sink back in and empty out everything that came before this. And then just turn inward. And he's like saying, start with something small. Start with imagining. He's showing a flower growing. He's like, at first, don't even make it personal to something you want. Imagine that you are planting a seed, and then imagine it growing through the soil. Imagine the roots going down as the seedling is coming up and out of the dirt, and just see every step of how it's growing. And he's saying, notice how as you're doing this, there's non-attachment. You're just imagining, you're assuming, you're seeing how this flower is growing. There's no pull towards it. There's nothing weighing on it. So he's saying, if now go do it again. He just handed me another seed. It's the same daisy. He's like, do it again, plant it again. Start again, start again. Okay, so he's saying now, tomorrow, you can come back to this daisy again. Now I'm gonna have you grow. He's showing a car. He's actually showing me this like 1950s or some very old like Cadillac convertible. And he's saying now see yourself having this in front of you. Get in, start the car, drive down the street, feel the wind. He's like telling me, put your hand out the window, feel the air run through your fingers, smell the salt in the air because you're along the coast. He's saying the utter importance of immersing yourself in every detail of this. Just like when I was growing the flower, I could see the cells of the petals forming. I could feel the texture, almost like this velvetyness. By looking at it, I could almost move myself into the feel of the petals. So he's saying this is what you need to be doing in all of these places. Get lost in every detail that you can, but do it from the end result. All that there is to do is the imagining. The rest just happens. He's like, by even attaching the outcome as you're in the imaginal, he's like, you're affecting negatively the imaginal. Stay right in it. Don't fast forward. Don't think about when you're not in the imaginal. Come to understand that the imaginals really are all that is, and the rest is simply the collateral of it. Cool. God, he's so good.
Why was Neville so into revisions?
Let me ask him. Okay, so revisions. He's saying revisions are because we will continue to fall off. We'll continue to fall out of line. And the revisioning is an opportunity to go back, and he's saying sweep the floor, clean up, to bring everything always back to a perfect state once again.
How often should one revision?
So he's taking me back to the beginning. He's saying when you're new to the law of assumption, the process for doing revisioning is really, really powerful. He's telling me how I did it, though, was not the best way to do it. So I personally did, I don't know, 100, or I did, I took all of the events that felt key in my life, and I wrote them all down, and then I just like knocked them out in the course of 2 days, doing revisionings to each one. And he's saying, that wasn't great. That the best way to do it is to do one and learn from it, learn from how you revised, and then the next day go do another one. But he's like saying, hold each one as this precious, glorious gift that you get to revision. So take the opportunity with inside of revisioning to learn from it each time you do it. Don't start with the largest ones. If you've made a list of that which you want revisioned, pick ones to start with that don't have the heaviest weight. Ones that still are very powerful and important, but not the ones that hold the most emotional charge. And the process of revisioning is that you, inside of the theta state or the imaginal state, go back and you see a different ending. You play this through again. And drop into that in the most tactile, immersive way possible. And he's saying linger there with the results of it. So again, one of the things that I had done was I did one, then I went right into the next and the next, and he said, you really miss the riches of it that way. So allow yourself to soak up the glory of what transpired the second time around. Allow yourself to daydream or continue to see the ripples out. So he's saying you can use the thinking state after the fact to piggyback on the revision. Reflect first on what the revision was you made the day before. See the success of it. So just ponder it, use it as a reference point, perhaps. Now go back in and revision this one. Notice how even by day 2 and only having done 1 or 2 revisions so far, there will be a familiarity to you. This process of getting a second chance, this will become the norm for you. Now by day 3 or by day 4, pick one that's a little larger impact, a little stronger. Really be conscious of what ending you put on things. Are you choosing an ending that is really what you want, the most magnificent? Are you choosing to put an ending on it that's perhaps better, but not fully going as far as you would otherwise, in a manner of quote unquote going for the full win? So in the beginning there will be quite a few revisions that need to be done, and take your time and just be in the glory of each revision as a gem. Then after you do the first full set, more will naturally come into your awareness that need to be revisioned. They'll come up in waves, essentially. And then after you've done the bulk of these, he's showing that it'll be in like 1, 2, 3 sets. Now you will be able to be essentially caught up to date, although others will flow in over time in your memory. And now you will go to revisioning at the end of each day. So anything that happened throughout the day that was not ideal, you'll revision. They're going to have a very different feel to them than the original sets, which were much bigger life events. These are now these smaller day-to-day events. He's saying they'll have a different feel because the revisionings will just be more subtle. Then you'll start to hone your abilities of what happens if you would have gone a little this way or sprinkled a little of something else into this. And you can play with getting a sense of what your own spin is or the own flavor that you add to them and how those feel. So he's saying similar to the style of cinematography in a movie. You'll start to develop a particular, he's saying je ne sais quoi, of like what's yours. He's saying you can, fine tune that and then go even deeper where you can then revision almost immediately. Something can happen and you pause and revision it quickly. He's also saying that the more you get accustomed to doing revisions, the quicker they happen, where it's almost instantaneous that you're able to revision something in a minute or two, where earlier on those skills perhaps took a little more time. Then he's showing there's almost a real-time revisioning that can take place. And he's explaining that the real-time revisioning is possible once you have the ability, through all of the revisioning you've done so far, what happens is you're essentially walking yourself to a higher frequency regularly, like a redirect.
What's the higher frequency mean?
A higher version, higher happiness. So if he said everything that you're going to be revisioning has a certain emotional imprint to it, that's maybe it's something that created fear, sadness, loneliness, disappointment, sadness, anger, rage. So it's training your mind to take something from lower and moving it to a higher state. So at first you're doing it in the broad strokes as you're doing big chunks of revisioning. But again, he's saying make this a daily practice. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. So the revisioning in real time is something starts to go a particular way, and the old you would see this sort of slant down. Now you can catch it as it's starting to fall. And now you're just almost upgrading it. So a revision becomes like a catching it, moving it higher in real time. And he said you'll also untether from what's happening in real time and just go to your experience of how to shift it. So that's a really big piece here, is attaching more to the experience of something rather than the external expression of it. So he's saying there's no, if I were to guide someone, they're then focused on me. And the whole point to this is for it to be such an internal experience. So he's saying other than a binaural beat, something to keep them in theta, he's saying I don't think you should follow for imaginals and revisioning. He's like, when you are in your imaginal, in your revisioning, singing bowls or instrumental or frequencies work, but other than that, he said you need to leave the rest as a completely blank canvas so that you can fill in all of those details. The understanding here of the revisioning is really a moving things from lower planes to higher planes is really what this is. I will also explain a little bit about, or just the point to the revisioning is that the other happened and it does exist. But by creating the revision of it, now in your field there is the success stories as well. And when you go to think about or refer to that which happened, this other one is here and it's neutralized what the original experience is. So it's not that it makes it disappear. It still exists, but you have the countermeasure to it. And that evidence, what this holds and embodies, that you are rewriting this, turns you, creates the evolution for you to become a revisionary. And that's one of the reasons we've created this channel, is to help people from wherever they are, right where they are, revision and go back and clean and reset where they were and where they're headed and where they want to be, and the path to get there.